If I come straight to the topic, I think we are supposed to be talking about karma under the title of "In Karma We Trust." It's kind of ironic because karma probably is the most untrustable, yet we also have to learn to trust that untrustability, so to speak. You must have heard this riddle, the chicken and egg riddle. That riddle is probably the most vivid illustration of what karma is. Karma is a very difficult subject. In my years of study in the Buddhist philosophy and metaphysics, I have to say the subject of karma is the most difficult. And there's a reason why it is difficult. Because after a while, the human means or the tools, if you like, just simply runs out. We live in a certain zone where we speak a certain language, we use a certain sort of very limited logic and the measurement tools, so to speak. And that is just simply not enough to measure things that are beyond our conception. But here again, when we talk about beyond conception, immediately our so-called objective mind immediately come to a conclusion that we are talking about something mysterious and something mythical and something, something very supernatural. But actually, karma is not at all mystical. It's blatantly simple also. I like to engage this, whatever we are doing tonight, it would be good if you engage this through discussion, and if you like, some sort of analysis, and you can ask questions, debate if you like, because only through these tools we can probably have a glimpse of idea of what karma is. The word karma, unfortunately, is overly used, and it's now it's a very stained word. As a Buddhist, I feel I cringe when people talk about karma. When people use the word karma. Then there's also the complexity of different system of karmic philosophy. There's Jainism, there's Hinduism, and of course there's Buddhism. Then looks like there's also a modern way of understanding the karma, which is a hodgepodge of everything. Nevertheless, karma has now entered into the English dictionary, and It has even become, I think in some parts, it has even become an English language. Anyway, as a Buddhist, I can try, I will attempt to explain what the Buddhists take, and especially from the Mahayana point of view, what the karma is. Tonight, I can only try. When we talk about karma, we are talking, at glance we are talking about cause, we are talking about effect, and we are also talking about an action, because when we talk about cause and effect, naturally there is an action, there's a movement. So we are talking about a movement also. So when we talk about movement, we have to talk about time. And when we talk about time, we have to talk about space. So as you can see, karma is not like, you do something bad and you go to hell. You do something good and you go to heaven. It's not as simple as that. If you really want to sort of go deeper into the world of karmic, philosophy. And all of these, cause, effect, action, movement, time, space, all of these are all vague. Scientists can talk about time and space forever and ever, but they are always talking something vague. In fact, lots of the Buddhist scholars would say, everything we say, all our words, when we say, oh, you look beautiful, is so vague. It doesn't mean much. Every word that we use is vague. Nothing is precise. This is blue. This is white. It sounds precise, but what do we really mean by blue? What is the real ultimate blue? Word can only vaguely summarize something. And we are happy with that, as one of the great Tibetan scholar Gedun Chopel said. Like cats. Cats have maybe 1 or 2 vowels. We have how many vowels? 4, 5. Cats have maybe 1 or 2 vowels, but with those 2 limited vowels, they can get by among themselves. They can have a whole conversation. It's amazing that they actually can do it. We have 4 vowels, probably 5, but we still cannot describe certain things that we like to describe. The singers, lovers, philosophers have tried, especially when it becomes something more deeper and more inside, then it becomes more complicated. Anyway, you have to help me to sort of keep track on what I go here and there a lot. So if it's getting a little confusing, you have to really tell me back to the track. So we were talking about time, right? What do we mean by time? What is time? Well, I'm sure many of you here, those who have done a little bit of Buddhist studies, you know that time is relative truth. I always say this with a little bit of pride, I guess. I always say it's so unfair that the many West actually gave the credit to Einstein for finding the time as relative truth, because Buddha has found the time as relative truth 2,500 years before Einstein. The credit should be his. So, What is relative? If time is relative, what is relative? This is something you have to think about. A relative means not absolute. It is changeable. It is expedient. It is subjective. But anyway, when we talk about karma, we talk about cause, we are talking about effect, we are talking about action. And when we talk about that, we have to talk about time. And I'm emphasizing this a little bit about time because this is a kind of more exclusive Buddhist point of view. When we talk about karma, we talk about reincarnation. And I know reincarnation is a subject that many people don't, many people just, even among the Buddhists, I should say, even among the Buddhists, there are so many Buddhist scholars and even practitioners who like to shy away from talking about the reincarnation. I understand because Tibetan whole this reincarnation business has not really helped because there's all that dodgy stories about reincarnate people and double reincarnation, triple reincarnations and so on and so forth, and all the corruptions that goes with it. But reincarnation, as hopefully I will come to that in the later part, is a must. When we talk about karma, we have to talk about reincarnation. And that, by the way, is a very big subject again. Then what do we... Okay, so then as we talk about karma, as we talk about cause, as we talk about effect, a really big thing that we cannot just simply ignore is we have to talk about the subject. A perceiver, knower of these, knower, enjoyer, the agent, one that goes through one that collects the cause, let's say, the one that collects the cause and one that experiences the result. Right? So we are talking about a cognition. If there is no cognition, or if there is no cognizer, there is no karma. So naturally we talk about mind. So when we talk about karma, we talk about mind. Then when we talk about mind, cause, effect, we cannot avoid, but we have to talk about good and bad. Now this is even more complicated. Good and bad. How do you measure? How do you know something is bad? How do you know something is good? Of course, generally we say, killing somebody is a bad karma. Giving a cup of tea to somebody who really needs it is good karma, or so on and so forth. That's just a simple generalization. But if we go really at the bottom of what is good, what is bad, how do you define what is good and what is bad? So that also is part of the karma study of karma. So, if we talk about mind, cause, effect, good and bad, then naturally as a human being we talk about good circumstance and the bad circumstance, or blissful circumstance and painful circumstance. This is quite important for Buddhists, because Buddhists, especially in Mahayana Buddhism, We don't talk about externally, inherently existing hell realm or heaven. We don't believe in hell. We don't believe in, hell or heaven. But we believe in blissful experience on the relative level, of course. We also believe in painful experience, which can be labeled as human, about a heavenly experience and hellish experience. But before I go into this, really, it's a difficult subject, in the subject of karma. I'd like to point this out. If you were to ask, what should a Buddhist do? What is the duty of a Buddhist? Is the duty of Buddhists to avoid bad karma and to do good karma? Is that the duty of Buddhist follower? Absolutely not. You have to write this down. Absolutely not. We are, as a Buddhist, if you are a Buddhist, you are not supposed to collect. Of course, you are not supposed to do bad things, but to avoid the bad deed and to adopt the good deed is not your ultimate goal or practice. So then what is it? Your aim, your goal as a Buddhist is to go beyond both bad and good karma. This is what Chandrakirti, one of the greatest Indian philosophers, said. Idiots do bad things and go to hell. Idiots do good things and go to heaven. Only the wise ones go beyond bad and good and achieve liberation. So, good to, what do you call it? Well, I just want to put that first, because the next thing, see, now we are talking about cause, we are talking about effect, we are talking about action, we are talking about perceiver, then we are talking about good and bad, we are talking about painful experience and blissful experience. Inevitably, we have to talk about morality and ethic. So, morality and ethic. This is why often we hear, in our, ordinary conversation, as a Buddhist, you shouldn't do this. This is a bad karma. You shouldn't fry, somebody's leg. That's a bad karma. That. So there is some sort of, that sort of moral sort of, you shouldn't do this, you should do this, you should only eat, leaves, because that's not harmful, so on and so forth. Okay. So we then talk about morality. But as you can already guess, some of you can already guess, which tells us that again in Buddhism, morality is a secondary, wisdom is primary. Morality is the means and the wisdom is the end. What does this tell us? It tells us that for a Buddhist, actually, they, we as a human beings, we are afraid of death, usually. But as a Buddhist, we should be also afraid of birth. Death and the birth are equally troublesome. It's an equal burden. that was just like a kind of a very brief summary, but anytime you want to ask questions, just raise your hand and I'll try to answer. But let me give you an analogy. Playing cards, okay? So because we have to now talk about, what do you call it? How should I call it? Fatalist or predetermined, right? Believing in predetermined. So this is there's many questions that one can ask. Like the word is free will. Free will. Okay, so a rapist rapes someone. The question is, does the rapist have the free will? Or are you Buddhists going to say it is because of his past karmic deed and the consequences that he has to rape? It's like after 11 o'clock, it's no matter what, it's at 12 o'clock, right? It's like that. So are we saying that, if you talk about karma, if you talk about, cause and condition and effect, then how about the rapist? Does he have the free will, or, is he forced by his karma? And also, should the victim try to seek justice, try to sort of correct it, or should the victim just blame it to himself, her or herself, saying that, okay, so this is my past life's karma, I'm being raped, that's it. So one could ask these kind of questions. And I think probably we could just handle this question first, I don't think we have, there's many other questions, things like, okay, what is this transferable karma? Transferable, okay, like, wish me luck. Can you please pray for me? Can you do some fish release somewhere in, other side of Singapore, so that this side of the Singaporean will receive the blessing of it? What is this transferable karmic consequences? So there's that. we could, I guess, I don't know whether we have all this. And also, it's difficult because, you see, many times the karmic consequence doesn't have to materialize right away. Buddha himself said, like the bird flying deeper into the sky, there will be no shadow. But sooner or later, the bird has to come down, because just, the bird will not make it all the way. Has to come down. And when the bird comes down, the shadow is there. So there's all that sort of, I don't want to say the word hidden karma. These words are so overly used, hidden karma. But anyway, there's that. And then, then that raises a lot of questions, because there's, all these bad guys doing all sorts of bad things, and they live the longest. They don't seem to have much health problem. But wherever they go, they are successful. What's that? And then there's all these good people who does good things, and they, they have all sorts of problems. They're depressed, they're sick, they're unsuccessful. Nobody hears about it. Everybody's annoyed with this person, so on and so forth. Something to think about. Anyway, the West, this is probably a good example. I want to just illustrate this. I think the concept of karma is fairly new in the West. It has now arrived, and it's becoming, as I said earlier, it's becoming part of the Western culture. But in a very, very, very strange way, I feel sometimes. A very strange way. And I, as a Buddhist, sometimes I am cautious. The West, especially academics, they love the Buddhist concepts such as shunyata, emptiness. They love it. They really revere it. The Buddhist philosophy is one of the most studied and most scrutinized and appreciated now in the West, especially in the scientific world. Now West, especially the scientific world, is supposedly, by consequences, supposedly the scientific study or the scientific world appreciates the game of cause and effect, right? Because, as a scientist, you don't believe in an almighty creator out of nowhere, sort of some truly existing sponsor comes in and sponsors everything. They don't believe in that. Buddhists also don't. So in many ways, scientists do appreciate the theory of cause, condition, and effect. But okay, so the emptiness, shunyata, is appreciated. To the certain extent, the concept of cause, condition, and effect that are taught in Buddhism is accepted. But as we go deeper, I am not so sure how much West is still appreciating the deepest level of the karma. And it is kind of funny, because actually karma and emptiness is not divorced. They are like one coin, out of lack of example, with a two sides. That's a really bad example. They're one, actually. And this is why, as I said right at the beginning, karma is the most difficult thing to teach or thing to study. It's really, really, really difficult, because it promises a certain tool. It has a certain sort of, law. It has a certain rule of the game. But then after a while, that rule of the game does not manage to play the game all the way. Because now, the very important question, the first ever cause, what is it? Who is it? Do the Buddhists believe in first ever cause? No. Genesis, right? The concept of Genesis. The Buddhists don't have that.